And welcome back to the MercyCast, where we are learning the art of compassion through the adversity of life. I'm your host, Raleigh Sadler. You know, if you were anything like me, I hated pop quizzes. And I really never understood pop quizzes, whether it was in elementary school, middle school, or high school, even college. When the pop quiz came up, fear seized everyone in the classroom because we had no way of preparing. If we were prepared, then we could get through it. If we had known it was coming, we would know exactly what to do. But that's the whole point. That's the brilliance of pop quizzes, because they don't show you as you pretend to be. They show you as you are. They show you to be someone who has studied or not studied. I remember a professor saying something after a quiz. He said, well, the point of this is to see if you've studied. It's to see if you know this information. And I think ultimately that is why trials come into our lives, because when a trial comes into our life, it will ultimately show what we know to be true. It'll ultimately show how things are. I remember being in the Bahamas once and there was a storm. I was going snorkeling and the guide said, has everyone snorkeled before? Do you feel adequate to the task? Do you think you can do this? And everyone raised their hands like, yes, I can do it. And he goes, the sea will show us. And I think that is what trials do. They show us for who we are. We either face that or we deny that. But it shows us as we are, no matter what the trials are, no matter what we're experiencing. They often show us a failure point. They show us the weakness, the chink in our armor, the part of us that needs a little bit more love and care, the part of us that is weak. They always reveal our weakest links. James, in his letter to the church, writes this in chapter 1, verse 2. Count it all joy. Isn't that interesting? Count it all joy, my brothers. He's writing to the church. When you meet trials of various kinds. This word trials here is intentionally general. And we'll see throughout the rest of his letter that he is referring to a lot of different trials. But he says, count it all joy, my brothers, when you meet trials of various kinds, for you know, anytime you see the word for, that's the reason, right? For you know that the testing of your faith produces steadfastness. And let steadfastness have its full effect, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking in nothing. And so he is saying here that these things that come upon you are not meant to destroy you. They can actually be gifts. They reveal things for how they are, and they show us our need for dependence on God. And it ultimately produces in us not a lack of faith, but its opposite. It produces the way to grow in our faith, to grow in perseverance and maturity and a deeper dependence on God. This word steadfastness means to be unwavering. This is a faith that is solid. It's rooted on the rock. It's not on shifting sands. Last week, we talked about compassion. Today, we're talking about adversity, because ultimately, that's how we are shaped. That's how we grow. And that adversity can be a gift. Recently, I've been thinking about this idea of exposure, this idea of God revealing to us our weakness. He shows us these things where this could be a problem. So we look at it and we either accept, oh, well, this is an area I'm struggling in, or we deny it and we keep going. I feel like when we don't face those things that God opens our eyes to, we're setting ourselves up for failure, because oftentimes you haven't done anything wrong yet. But facing it and saying, okay, here's a weakness and I'm not perfect. You're never meant to be perfect. But doing that is important. It's not an act of self-loathing to see yourself as imperfect, to see yourself as someone who could use a little love and care. It's actually an act of self-love. The self-loathing part comes when we start medicating it, avoiding it, when we live in denial. That's actually the very opposite of what we need. In accepting ourselves, we're able to bring that to God and trust Him to be the strength in our weakness. That thing you're going through right now, that's a gift. It can refine you. It doesn't have to define you. And it's making you stronger. Years ago, I broke my foot surfing and didn't really strengthen it. I was in a boot for too long and it kind of just didn't heal the right way. I would move to New York years later and my foot would break again. And I would keep having problems with this foot. And so it got really scary when I walked my first Camino because I was like, my foot's going to break. But the strangest thing happened. My foot started to get stronger. I remember my first day of the Camino, my foot swelled up. I could barely tie my shoe. But now when I walk, it's not a problem because my foot has actually gotten stronger through what it has faced. That's how we are. We get stronger. Ironically, the things that we think would break us actually lead to our wholeness. They help us get to where we've always wanted to go. Some of these trials that James is talking about could be persecution, mental health, temptations, societal struggles, or just general life things that come up. It doesn't have to be a big thing. It could just be mental stress, anxiety. It could be your family members aren't acting right. It could be a struggle at work. The things we go through are ultimately the things that shape us. We talked about this last week. And what I love about this is James is really hitting at this idea that we don't just have to look at the things that we're facing as negative, nor do we have to be Pollyanna about it. We can know the truth that we can experience joy because no matter what is being thrown at us, it's ultimately testing the genuineness of our faith. It's making us strong so that we would be complete, so that we would be whole. That's what this word perfect has to it. It's this idea of being whole, lacking in nothing. The things that you go through grow you. The things that we face are the things that grow us to be ultimately who we're praying that we can become. So no matter where you are right now, you're becoming. You're not static. You haven't arrived, but you are in this state of becoming. You are becoming who you are. So no matter what you're facing, you're okay. You are loved. This reminds me of 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verses 7 through 10. This is the Apostle Paul speaking, and he says, "But to keep me from becoming conceited because of the surpassing greatness of the revelations." He had a vision, and he had just talked about this vision. And he said, "To keep me from becoming conceited, a thorn was given to me in the flesh." This word thorn is not like a rose thorn. It's more like a debilitating stake. It's like he's been impaled and he is hurting. He said, "A messenger of Satan to harass me, to keep me from becoming conceited." This thing is keeping him from thinking that he is the reason he had the vision. He says the word conceited twice. He's really trying to lay this on thick. He wants us to know that the thing that has befallen him is ultimately working for his good. He says, 3 times I pleaded with the Lord about this, that it should leave me. But he said to me, this is God speaking, "My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness." Now, the Apostle Paul says, "Therefore I will boast all the more gladly of my weaknesses, so that the power of Christ may rest upon me. For the sake of Christ, then, I am content with weaknesses, insults, hardships, persecutions, and calamities. For when I am weak, then I am strong." This is why we can count adversity as joy, because that adversity ultimately drives our faith to the place that it's supposed to be, not in us, not in our achievements, not in our own abilities, but in God. God becomes our refuge. It's no longer about us being perfect. It's no longer about us having it together. It's about us realizing that we're not perfect and we don't have it together, but God is. So no matter what you're going through today, know that you're loved and know that it's okay to not be okay today. And so I don't know what today's going to throw at you. I don't know. I have no idea. But run to Jesus. Run to him. He is your refuge. He loves you. And when you are weak, that's exactly when you are strong, because God's strength lies ready for you.